Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Meta HSC Valorant League. I'm Digital Cast. Of course, joining me is this handsome gentleman, Reinhardt, and this will be the high school league sponsored by Torrens University and Optus. Reinhardt, how you doing?
I'm feeling quite ecstatic about today's games. Like, first game off the bat, we're going to be having Sydney Secondary College going up against Marsden State High School. I don't believe I've actually seen any of these two teams playing up against each other, so this is like going to be very interesting to see how they play off, considering compared to like everything we've seen so far. Like, I'm looking to see what the team synergy is going to be like, what agents we're going to see coming into this. Because remember, everybody, this is going to be Icebox happening today, and Icebox has always been everybody's favorite, as I say that sarcastically.
Well, Icebox actually, when it first came out, even now, I like to think of Icebox as that dark horse map pick for a lot of teams. Because since a lot of teams, they're not comfortable on Icebox, they don't have good strats, they don't really have good agent compositions. But however, if a team can play Icebox well, then that's almost a guaranteed win against any other team who obviously doesn't practice the map as much as your basic Ascent, Haven, Split, and what was the other one? And Bind. That's right.
I'm just thinking about Icebox just sort of sends chills down my spine. Figuratively speaking,
Haha,
almost
haha.
physically speaking. Yeah, I realize it just made an unintentional joke, but at the same time, it really punctures a hole in team composition because it all comes down to how well you can either defend the point or how quickly you can get on the point, because you've only got 2 points to pick. You've got three to four ways of being able to go anywhere, and whoever controls mid essentially has the opportunity to choose whether they want to go and control A or go straight onto B, because it's like the biggest shortcut going to B instead of trying to snipe down that long route that is possibly the operator's best friend. Just
Yeah,
from experience, really.
absolutely. Towards B there, like even in the Oceania tour, I believe, or in the higher tier official games, I've seen at least operator collaterals and a lot of jet operators that they play there using the operator, and they just get multi kill after multi kill. It's literally a kill zone when you walk over towards B long. But regardless, let's talk about the Asian picks right now. On the attack side, it will be Sydney Secondary College, and on defense, Marsden State High School. Sydney. Nothing really stands out to me thus far, but triple duelist setup, single sentinel on stage, and of course they have Omen. Meanwhile, on the defense, Sydney, Marsden State High School, something much more vanilla, double duelist, smoker, Sova, and Sage.
I'm liking the compositions at this, like, just starting off. Everything looks pretty good. I love, like, seeing champions like Rainier and Phoenix on this map, because they've got a lot of opportunities to be able to, like, blind people where possible. But the other thing that's also very problematic is that there's a lot of corners to think about too. Like, this could be your route map if we decide to think about it, especially when you're going up through tube and you make your way through lab to go straight on towards B. But at the same time, it's like you've got Phoenix, who acts as the perfect front line once he gets that running back going. As now we're leading into the first round, and we can see straight off the bat, it is an A focus.
Yep, Sailor holding the spike in his hands, going for the plant right. Wow, he runs onto the side with the spike in hand, manages to get the plant down as his teammates are there to defend him. Loaf and Sonder, they take down two players of Marsden State and Sydney Secondary College. What a commanding start to a pistol round. But as I say that, they seem to be biting off a little bit more than they can chew, as Joby finally gets one to Arrow, dismisses out of there, but couldn't quite escape the safety as he does get shot in the back of his head. JSH by himself, 1-on-4. Has a heal to bring himself back up to a little bit more HP, but this pistol round looking really one-sided and done and dusted, as Sailor actually burns down Sonder, just for good measure, even the odds a little bit.
Oh, the odds incredibly in favor for the attackers, just because, like, look at Josh. He is just really trying to make sure he stays alive for the remainder of this round, and if he does, it gives his team a little bit of comfortability. He goes in for the nice shot, gets a nice little head, actually.
Oh no.
And he's gone through. That's pretty much the saving grace needed, and this is where things can get really problematic when you're on your own in Icebox, because there's too many corners to think about. You've got too many elements to consider when you're sitting in a position like that you need to watch all corners, and, well, let's face it, you can't be everywhere at once.
No, you can't. And also, this comes into the agent picks as well. Josh being a sentinel sage, we can expect him to use his sage wall more defensively over towards tube or mid. But then again, the problem with both teams right now, you don't have any killjoys or Cypher. Cypher, who by the way is terrible on the icebox. His kit doesn't work very well at all. But killjoy at least does work to some extent. But regardless, now coming to this round again, Sydney Secondary College going for a hard A take. There's only 2 defenders, Marsden State on site, throwing out util. The paranoia it holds their position for the time being, but Imugi Poogie, yeah, only a classic, couldn't really do too much as Sonda sprays him down with the judge from distance. Seabliss 1v4 essentially on site as Arrow one pumps him down, and they're just going on a roll right now with the judges one at a time. The defenders are falling to this overwhelming tsunami of attackers as a flawless round comes out. I take it back, not quite flawless, as from beyond the grave, Kelpu does take down one with the boombot.
Yeah, sending Lotus now on 2 deaths with 3 kills on the board. Did have to reset himself a little bit, but now looking at this, we're hitting in the 3rd round, beginning to see a difference with, like, the econs. Mainly because we're seeing I'm seeing 3 Spectres and a nice judge actually sitting on the defending side, and whereas in the attackers, everyone's still sitting on those judges. Like this, this
sort of close
has got
range.
so many tight-knit corners that you almost can't win against the Vandal. You almost can't win against the judge, even if you've got a Vandal or an Odin, honestly. Like, everything's just that close to each other.
But then again, usually, it would make more sense to have 5 auto shotties on the defense, but on the attack, that's quite the curveball, although I think it might work in the favor as Lotus Sonder trades his teammate out one-on-one. Still going more and more aggressive. Does miss the secondary sprays on the next player, though. But hey, look, the attackers, they've got a few kills, they have side control, but the spike is down. Loaf now, 1v4, has a judge. It's the perfect gun to hold these close range angles you were talking about earlier. Paranoia to come through, has a lot of util to work with. The self-heal, a slow orb, and a sage wall, getting yet another double for himself. 1-on-2 now, the isolation is possible. The 2 players are trying to pinch him, and Loaf gets yet another! There's only 1 player left, 1-on-1, manages to escape to safety, 45 HP sage wall, and look at the judge at point blank. He can insta-pop the Reyna. Joby, did he see him? He did, but does manage to take the shots. Low finally goes down. His reign of terror has ended, and finally 1 round on the board for Marsden State.
Well, this time we're seeing teams becoming a little bit more even early, whereas, in the last couple of weeks, we have seen one-sided matches occur very quickly. But I'm liking where this is going. Like, we could potentially hit a sudden death moment coming through to the final couple rounds of today's first game, but
oh man,
at the say the least, like, this is a very judge-heavy map at the moment. But now looking over on Sydney, Sydney, they've got 4 Vandals and 1 person still sitting on that judge. Whereas on the other side of the spectrum, they're holding out for just that little bit longer, and I can see that Marsden are going to become a little bit stronger leading into the next round if they win this one.
Yeah, but Joby winning the previous does manage to force up fully with the Guardian and the rest of his teammates. I mean, slightly worse at guns. Kelpu does get seen by Arrow. Here's the judge, by the way. Jumps and doesn't quite... Oh, he does pick up Kelpu after all. His teammates firing shots with just a distraction. Josh now aiming the wrong way a little bit. Sailor pops his head instantly. Sydney Secondary College, 1 word can describe them right now. They woke up and they chose aggression. They're just going all the way and they are feeling the greed. Joby does manage to spot an Arrow briefly. But Arrow, no, from the judge at distance gets yet another for himself. Reyna versus Reyna, and Joby does manage to take down Arrow. But 1-on-4, Empress is popped. How about the spike? Yeah, it's planted in a bit of an interesting position, and he just walks right into a firing squad of 3 people staring down at him.
He was intangible, but he still got caught out. He didn't retreat quick enough. Like, honestly, when you get to intangible form as Reyna, you just want to run around everywhere because no one can hear your footsteps. And it's just sort of like raised a bit of a question. Why did Reyna decide to slow walk coming into the final, the final couple of moments before receiving a nice little headshot like that sort of sent them back a little bit further? Because now looking forward, a couple of people decided to go with something a little bit stronger. Like, I'm seeing a Phantom at least from the likes of Omen over on Marsden, but on the other side of the spectrum, everyone has got complete loadouts. Like, we're talking full shield and everything.
Oh, Sailor opens up. Imugi Poogie's gone. The only rifle on the team. Hero swaps out a free upgrade, getting Kelpu 1 at a time. Sydney Secondary College, they're just overwhelming the defense right now. Marsden State cannot stand up to this attack. And it's all down to the last lone player. Josh does have a resurrection. Gets 1 kill for himself. 1-on-2 once again. We've seen him to pull off this clutch in the past, almost. but he has to get a res onto a teammate. Sunder just making a lot of noise, distracting Josh for the time being as the spike is starting to tick away. And Josh, you have to play the objective, man. You're focusing on the wrong player there. Finally, we'll go for the spike, and Loaf already lying in wait takes them down. Easy, trap, set, and sprung. Now, Reinhardt, before we talk about what happened, right, I just want to point out, I actually know quite a few of these players from higher tier leagues in Valorant, especially one name that really stands out to me, Aero. This guy, I wouldn't say he's playing like the pro level, but semi-pro. So they already have that, a huge boost in like talents for the side of Sydney Secondary College.
Oh yeah, what's his favorite agent or his most skilled agent that you know him for?
He actually plays Jet last time I've seen. Aero.
You know what? I wouldn't be surprised that Jet is that type of agent that you can still just absolutely spike with, especially once you get those blades, because there's no drag, there's no, like, you know, flickering around. Just where you aim is where you shoot with those daggers.
And also, you know, the Jet and the duelist agent suits his playstyle perfectly as he goes full bloody send as the Empress getting yet another. Oh, Sydney Secondary State College. Sydney Secondary College. This is running right over Marsden State right now. Moogie Poogie trying to make the most of what he's given. But at distance, that Spectre just cannot stand up to what Sydney Secondary College has. And Reinhardt, this game is starting to look a little bit one-sided, and momentum really building towards one side.
I'm beginning to feel a little bit worried for Marsden. Like, they're not exactly, you know, hitting those hammers where possible. They are being sort of sold a little bit short, and they're almost being completely denied the ability to hit a full loadout every round because of how disconnected they are from one another. Like, when I say disconnected, they're not trying to, like, all save up and get in together. It's like 3 people will go with a Spectre and half shield. One person will sell straight through and just get, like, you know, the maximum gun possible. And it's a real huge sacrifice. And so far, we're seeing it work more in favor for Sydney than anything else.
Sonder should not have won that firefight. Josh had every advantage, and Sonder now just dashing all onto B. Hasn't really cleared the site just yet. It doesn't matter. Loaf is there to help him out. He swaps out his Judge for free upgrade one by one. Sydney Secondary College, the same old story, just trampling over Marsden State right now. And Reinhardt, as much as I hate to say it, you know, this game is seriously one-sided, and I do have to agree with you. I wanted to mention it as well. The financial or the economy decisions made by Marsden State, very disconnected across the board.
Honestly, they would need to sacrifice another round or so just to be able to hit full loadout and try to match up to the likes of what Sydney are showing us today on stream. Otherwise, it's going to be a rinse and repeat procedure, and we could see a near 13 to, I guess, at best, 5 probably points, because they are still sitting on defense, and they do have a bit of a weak point, because this map is turning strongly into the attack advantage because they're all playing together. The other team, whoever, is a little bit split, and this is where the problem is. Everyone making it to point easy, but the defense
send again. Sonder always getting one of the first few kills, but some of the pistols, the upgraded ones, are doing some damage back. Although how much can they really do? As one at a time, they still fall to the minds of Sydney Secondary College. Moogie Poogie by himself an arrow. Full send in again with the auto shotty. Pops down the last player. 7-1 now.
And this is something I do have to point out. Sydney, they have the perfect econ needed. They've pretty much reached max econ needed to be able to get full letouts.
Yeah.
But they are still prioritizing judges over Vandals and Phantoms. And it's just amazing how well it's working for them.
I would have to say it's probably because when they full send the side, they go together as a whole group. They pop util as well. You saw the curveballs there, and you saw, I wouldn't say TPs, but the jet dashes to make space for his teammates. And also the fact that they have a 6-round lead. Some of them, they just know they're outclassing their opponents right now. And that's probably another reason why they're just having fun using these inferior guns, so to speak. A handicap, if you will. But Sonder has finally had enough. Two of his teammates does go down, pulls out the blade storms finally. He also he had all along. Misses 2, misses 3 actually. Only has 2 more to work with as Monster Gaming gets onto the Moogie Poogie. Loaf resurrects Arrow and already lying awake. Kalpu, he took the bait, and Sonder once again turns out the judge works out better in his favor, swaps out point blank, takes down Seabest. Joby on the flank, 1-on-4. He's one more kill. We'll have the Empress, but Arrow swings the corner with the judge. Will go down. Joby, now's the time to pop the Empress and go huge here for your team. I like that, using his Empress to get some intel initially, but it does get exposed. Clean headshot takes down one. Dismisses out of it in time. Even the overheals come through. Sonder is very low. Love's the only player on full HP, but Sonder's still going for a challenge, and the clean headshot. Triple kill for him. Joby, oh dearie me, that was the makings of a potential 1v4. but Fate had other plans for him tonight.
Exactly, and like we saw just then, I feel like that was a really impressive play by Jody. Like, he is acting as the strongest player for his team, especially using his Empress in a 1 versus 5 situation. The only thing that makes that a very risky play is that he acted as the flank for his team, but his team was already gone, so him flanking was a little bit like, a little bit forfeit, because he had a choice to either save for another round and buy his teammate a gun so they can get a full loadout, or he risks it all and goes for, goes for the bullet. But like, as we can see, he bit the bullet instead, and he took off a little bit more than he could chew. Is now receiving a B focus coming out from Sydney.
Sydney finally changing the narrative just a little bit. The spike gets planted down so easily. Not much resistance on site, I'll be honest. As Minotaur Gaming and Arrow, they're starting to get more and more frags. And Sonder again, the send. You blink and you miss it. The spike gets planted. Sydney, they sweep onto the site and they sweep over the enemy team. Again, 9-1. This team is looking to be a really strong contender going into perhaps the later stages of this league.
And looking at the likes of Lotus, this is what I love about playing Jet. You just have this subconscious, I guess, like, mental training, or like, motor skill thought that it's easier for you to land headshots. And from what we've seen so far, Lotus is really prioritizing getting headshots where possible, and it's aesthetically pleasing to see it happen, especially once you get those blades out onto the field, because they're just they're almost one-shot kill. 3 daggers to the chest and you're gone.
Well, similar story again. Sailor does get the first kill. Seavis is gone. One-on-one trade. But Sonder, another similar play coming in from him. The full send, but this time I do think defense are playing slightly smarter. They're pulling back a little bit, but Sonder, great jet movements. Doesn't quite check his corner though, as Kelpu won't take him down. 2v3. This is looking really promising. Just as I say that, Loaf takes down Josh and Moogie Poogie and his teammates. They're waiting for the aggressors to get onto the site and plant the spike before they attempt a retake. This is doable. The last 2 attackers, I was going to say, they're split apart as Love takes down Kelpu. And Moogie Poogie now by himself, 1-on-2. Dodges the paranoia briefly. They know exactly where he is, so he's going to have to pull off something monumental here to clutch this out.
I do like the state of play coming out from Sydney. First, you saw Omen just lag behind and stay a little bit out of the field, so that way they can try and catch him off guard like that. But as you can see, at the end of a prolonged trade in a game of cat and mouse, it works more in favor for Sydney. That the scoring at the moment is 1-10, heavily in favor for Sydney, and this is the last round. They're going to sit on attack before they are forced now to switch over to defense, and we could see a different side of the situation coming out from Marsden, but that remains to be seen. And I do hope we do see a little bit more action coming out from Marsden. Otherwise, like, this amount of pressure that is being built on top of them, it's only going to crush them at the end of this, because they are quite a few points down. They've only had one successful round, and it's just everything is looking in favor for Sydney.
That one successful round, it came down to 1-on-1 clutch, and look, a 9-round deficit, it's quite tough to, I'll admit. And Sonder, runs through first, there's 3 players firing down on him, but that doesn't matter. His teammates are there to back him up. Minotaur nets himself too. Josh does have a resurrection, although most of his teammates are dead on sight, and that's when he has to regain first before he can use his ultimate. Plants will go down, and Josh waiting for Kelpu to come join him. Point blank, though, that's a bit risky, as Arrow will pop Kelpu before that rocket can go through. Josh, 1v5, and no, the judge just does reign supreme a little bit. 11-1, and, Reinhardt, looking at the scoreboard right now, looking at the histories of the round wins. Only the pistol round, that was by Spike Explosion. Every single round after that was just pure taking down the enemy team before the spiking it either defused or explodes. So
feels like a team deathmatch almost with that.
Almost,
The spike has only gone off once, which was at the start of this entire game, or this entire game today. Every other round, it feels like there's almost no point to the spike. Like, they did the best they can. There's been 2 rounds where the spike has been the priority objective that did make the difference between who gains the point and who loses the point. But so far, the big difference I see between these 2 teams in terms of skill cap is the ability to be able to flicker straight onto one another, as well as compensate for those, compensate for the recoil and get those shots needed to, claim a kill. And so far, Sydney really keeping on top of their game. They're really trying to do what they can.
Sydney, oh dear. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Marsden State, now the sides are switched on the attack. We're seeing Sydney's secondary college pulling the strategy of the best defense is offense, and a flawless defensive round to come out so quickly 12-1.
Match
Oh,
point.
it's match point now. Reinhardt, this was a very quick game, I won't lie.
Well, it is one-sided. It is, 1-12. This is final round needed. They won the first round on defense, and like we saw in the previous round, they won on attack. Then they won again by, picking up those judges here and there. I'm seeing everything a little bit rinse and repeat almost coming out from Sydney while they're on defense, like 4 judges and 1 Spectre. Whereas on the other side, they need to go for it all. They have no choice. This
The
is
hard
literally
force.
game ending for them.
Half armor, a few Spectres, upgraded pistols, and Sonda going aggro again. Does get himself one, but Sailor may have bit it off a little bit more than he can chew. Peeks out as Joby executes him with a single tapped head from the Sheriff. So we are seeing B-side control being taken, but already a flank so quickly. But the problem is, Loaf only has a judge, and from behind, Seabit's already lying in wait. Loaf doesn't matter, spins around, takes him down. The self-heals come through, holding these tiny angles with the judge. He probably has the advantage to an extent. And now it's all down to Josh, by himself, 1-on-2, he's losing health as we speak. And Loaf, the judge, the jury, the executioner, finally hands Marsden State their sentence, and it will be a loss, 13-1.
A massive gap between team play on both sides, we'll say that. A very good team play coming out. Actually, I gotta say, I loved the way they managed to control themselves throughout that. Like, they all picked up judges for a majority of this game, and they used it in near perfect succession. They made sure that they stayed inside, the spray ring in order to actually let those judges pretty much unleash their full potential. They got kills left, right, and center. And I gotta say, it was a very close-knit gameplay between Lotus Sonda and Aero, like the highlight player you mentioned, over on Sydney, just because of how well they were able to play together. Like, I saw Sonda had a lot of flashy plays we did see on screen, but we also saw a lot of judge control coming out from Aero as well. That sort of really creates, the bigger difference between both sides, just from how well that those two played specifically.
Look, oh dear me. Okay, Reinhardt, in a nutshell, right, there's really not much to break down about this game, considering how one-sided it was. But also, all I can really say is, just the caliber of players on both these teams, it makes such a big difference, Era, like I mentioned earlier, he has had experience playing in higher tier tournaments. Sonder, this may be the same Sonder I'm thinking of, it may not be, but he's definitely a decent player. Plays at Diamond 3, maybe higher than that. I know for the very least. I haven't really heard of the other two though, the other 3. But just the fact that you already have a better experience on your team, and in theory, if either Aero or Sonder was making callouts, etc., that's already experienced leadership, an advantage that a lot of these smaller or more greener teams wouldn't have, and it really shows in this. It's just the confidence as well. Them relying on pure aim alone this game. Imagine, later on in the league when we get more serious and stronger teams face off against each other towards the end. Imagine what happens if this team does get serious. Sydney Secondary College versus what's another team? Blacktown Boys, or I think, or Bossley High from a few weeks ago.
Well, the teams that pretty much reached a similar potential where it was a 13-1 stomp. Oh, jeez, it was that far back, and there was so much action. I've actually forgotten.
Yeah, it was a while ago. Time does fly fast in the interesting times we live in. But hey, look, regardless, Reinhardt, let's check out our MVP for tonight. And really, in my opinion, and probably in yours, it's a bit unanimous. But was there any other choice other than to choose Sonda for Sydney Secondary College? Because it wasn't necessarily, the playmaking potential he set for his team. It wasn't necessarily utility usage, but rather him being Jet as well, just dashing in there, being a human flashbang, creating space for everyone, allowing his team to aggro on. That's great as well. But at the same time and time again, we saw him, the first player in, just hard sending it and getting those opening frags, and that probably is one of the many reasons on which Sydney Secondary College they performed this well today.
I've got to agree, Sonda really played spectacular, and being able to just jump straight into their phase, trying to maximize potential of that judge with the, the spray pattern, the damage reduction being ignored completely from how close he got in to Marsden's face. It's just, you can't exactly not give him credit for being able to maximize a single gun's potential and he was very successful with as well, just flickering straight onto somebody the minute they come within sights. It did fall
Yeah.
a little bit short in some rounds because hey, you can't cover every single angle. This is Icebox. It's nothing like a bind or something like that where it's easy to be able to like cover your flanks. But in this case, he did well. He got into on their face. His flanks, however, were a little bit solid, just a tad short when he decided to go straight into their backline like that. And that's usually the risk you got to take when you go in. But he did so well, being able to flick onto as many people as possible, using that judge majority of the time.
Mm. And yeah, look, that's it. MVP done and dusted for this game. Best of one, quick and fast. It will be Sydney Secondary College versus Marsden State. Let's reiterate that again. And Reinhardt, any last words for this game before I close things out?
And special congratulations to Sydney Secondary College for taking out a very hard ruffle stomp, 13-1 on Icebox. The
Yeah.
most contested map, I guess, when it comes to love and hate relationship there is currently on Valorant. Like, I'm curious to see what's going to be like when we see Breeze finally make its appearance on Valorant, on the Valorant series, because that is a very interesting map that I really like at the moment.
Breeze it's very open, so expect less Sentinels and more harder, faster plays with Vandals, I would say. But hey, ridiculous. But hey, all things aside, Icebox, expect to see a lot of teams this week perhaps struggle with this map. But any team that has a solid strategy or confidence or flat out aim, they will take the win easily. And so yeah, I'm eager to see what else comes later on. But hey, regardless, we are going for a short breather. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned because this is the Meta HSC Valorant League. Of course, I'm your caster, Digital Casts, and with me tonight for Game 1 is Reinhardt. So we'll see you in a bit after a short breather. This tournament sponsored by Torrens University of Australia and Optus. See you soon, guys.